Stop before you click away. Today I have something very special. I've gathered the best and most terrifying stories about obsession, like the famous movie Obsession, I've read on Reddit. Stories that left me in utter disbelief. In this video, every story is followed by one that is even better. So, I need to warn you. What you're about to hear is not a game, it's not fiction. This actually happened. In real life, I spent hours searching for the best horror stories on Reddit, and I finally found 5 truly terrifying true stories. You won't believe what happens in the last story, so watch the video till the end. Until now, if you get scared easily, leave. This is your only warning. But if you're brave enough to stay, it will be one of the scariest stories you will ever hear in your life. Before we start, subscribe to Mikey HR and hit the like button. If you haven't watched these 2 videos, you've missed out on a lot. You can watch it on the channel after this video. I spend hours finding these stories so you don't have to. It takes 2 seconds, and it means everything. Now, turn off the lights. And let's begin. Story 1, Obsession. I have been trailing him for days, monitoring every little thing he did, what he ate, what he watched on the TV. I even knew when he took a shit. I know everything, but where he was hiding my daughter. She had gotten off the school bus just a few houses down from where we live. She never came home. For days we searched, the entire town coming together in attempts to find any trace of where she went. But it was as if she had simply vanished. Poof, no longer existing. My husband and I, we were devastated. We blamed each other for her disappearing. He now lives with his mother, and I'm here, alone in this big empty carcass I used to call home. It was a Friday when I first noticed him. I would go to the nearby park every day looking at the faces of all the children, hoping one of them would be my little girl. We always told her if something happened and if she couldn't get home to come here and we'd find her. It had been months now, and the searches had been called off. Everyone gave up. My husband gave up. But I won't. I know she is still alive, still out there. I had seen the man a few times and didn't give him much thought. But that last time, I noticed something I hadn't before. He always had a camera with him, and he always seemed to be taking photos of the flowers and plant life that decorated the park. A few times I saw him ask a parent if he could take photos of them playing with their child. The man was young and handsome, so I thought maybe he was going to school for photography. But that last time, I noticed he took a particular interest in a young girl and her mother. The little girl looked a lot like my own daughter, and I couldn't help but notice how close he was getting to her. The photos he was taking seemed to be more of the girl than her mother. I didn't like the way he angled his lens, seeming to zoom in on particular parts of her. Her hair, her face, her legs. He just had this way about him. Something sent off alarms in my head. He shook hands with the mother and then started to leave. That's when I started to follow. Every day since then I've traced his steps, and I'm more sure now than I was at the beginning that he did something to my daughter. He wasn't a student. That was one thing I knew for sure. The photos he took were for personal reasons. He had a job at a paper supply office that he went to from 9 to 5. Every day. After, he would go to the park and take photos with that dirty camera of his. I noticed a pattern in the children he would photograph. Always girls, always with long brown hair, always with blue eyes, and always at the park with just their mothers. Easy targets, he probably thought. Well, my girl wasn't any easy target. She was alone, helpless, innocent. and he took her away. I've had enough of waiting. I'm outside his house now, and I'm not going to leave until he tells me what he did to her. I brought along some duct tape, pliers, and a handgun. I'll make him talk. I'll make him tell me. I'll find you Mina, and I'll make him pay. A window in the back of the house is what gave me entry. There wasn't much furnishing, and it was surprisingly clean for a single male. Before I met my husband, he was a complete slob. Still kinda is, but at least I was there to clean up after him. The man was asleep when I crept into his bedroom. He didn't fight much, which surprised me. I forced him into a chair using the gun and duct taped his arms and legs to the chair. He seemed calm. Too calm. Why wasn't he screaming? Crying? Doing something? All he did was stare at me. Pity in his eyes. I wasn't prepared for that. I was expecting him to scream or fight. It just wasn't right. I held my gun at him and sat on the bed. We stared at one another for a while, not uttering a word as we sized one another up. He wasn't as scary as I pictured him to be. Most perverts are disgusting animals, but this one seemed normal. My stomach churned at the thought. That's how he did it. How he lured Mina away, his normalcy. I opened my mouth, about to ask the question that I'd asked myself every day for almost a year when he spoke first. Your daughter, she's missing too? My mouth clamped shut, and for a moment I was stunned. 2? What? I know you won't believe me. Hell, sometimes it's hard for me to believe it too. My daughter was taken, just like yours. He shuffled a little in his chair, uncomfortable but not making any obvious movements of trying to escape. How? What? I couldn't think straight, and questions swam around my head, not making any sense. My daughter, her name is Kathy. She loved roller skating, practically went everywhere with her skates on. The man paused for a moment, and he stifled a sob. He was crying. Why was he crying? That's when they got her. She wanted to rollerblade around the block by herself, just to prove she could do it. He looked up at me, and I could see genuine sorrow in his eyes. She was gone. We looked everywhere, but it's like she just vanished. He stopped here, taking in a deep breath. I noticed he was shaking and trying to contain his anger. They took her, and every day since I've tried to stop them from doing it again. He tilted his head back, closed his eyes, and breathed slowly and deeply. Who are they? I asked. My whole plan was out the window. He was supposed to be a horrible, ugly man, not a grieving father. They have many names. The most common one is Changeling. He nodded his head towards his closet. They aren't like they used to be. They used to switch places with the kids. I kept the gun pointed at him and slowly approached the closet. Why didn't I know what was in there? I had been watching for so long, I saw everything. So why didn't I know? Now, they just take them and leave us with nothing. I flew open the closet door and stumbled back in shock. Papers, pictures, and notes coated the wall of the closet. A red string ran in all directions, going from one thing to the next. My eyes bounced around, not sure where to look. It was too much. He knew too much. I turned to face him quickly, both hands aiming the gun as I shook. Where's my daughter? Where did you take her? I screamed, approaching him quickly. He looked at me startled and confused. I don't... Liar, I cried and jammed the gun against the side of his head. I could feel my skin crawl and I struggled to keep it together. The confused look on his face turned to panic as he watched something in my eyes change. You're one of them, he cried, and this time he did try to fight. He started to pull against his restraints, the chair rocking back and forth as he fought. There was no use hiding it now. I let my illusion slowly slip away and felt my body relax as it was released from its bonds. The man stopped struggling, too shocked to move as he took in my new appearance. Then he screamed even louder and pushed back on the chair so hard that he flew backwards and landed hard on the floor. I still held the gun in my hands, and I could feel hot, angry tears running down my face. "Where is she? Where is—" My voice silenced as I heard a noise behind me. I swirled around quickly, and my eyes locked onto the closet. There, in the back left corner, was a secret compartment. It had been covered in notes and papers, so I hadn't noticed it before. But now the hidden door had slid off and sat partly opened. I quickly skittered over to the door and flew it open, expecting to see some other intruder. I stood for a moment looking down at the thing, not quite processing what I was seeing. It was small, and its skin was a dark gray. It had reptilian-like scales and had on no clothing. It had no hair and large pointed ears. Its eyes were large black pits on its face, and they sparkled like starlight. Its little nose sniffed the air, and its thin lips broke into a wide grin at the sight of me. Its teeth were jagged and broken, but it was still the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. "Mama," it croaked, reaching its 3-fingered hands up at me. I dropped the gun, falling onto my knees in sobs as I swept the little creature up into my arms. "You're one of them? Those things?" I could hear the man screaming behind me, but I didn't care much. I rose to my feet, my little monster cradled safely in my arms, and turned back to him. "No, we're not changelings. We're Gorgons." I slithered over to him, kneeling down so my face was inches from his. His eyes were so wide I thought they would pop out. I had never seen a human look so pale, so afraid. I smiled widely, and all 4 of my eyes blinked in unison. "I'd advise you to get your facts right, because next time the next mother might not be as kind as me." With that, I crept away, holding my little girl tightly against me and vowing to never let her go again. After all, monsters have mothers too. Story 2. My wife's obsession is scaring me. Everything was completely normal until last year. We had what felt like a totally typical marriage. I remember the night things started to get weird, because it was right after our 5th wedding anniversary. It was a regular day, working at the bank, when I got a text from my wife. A text from her in the middle of the day was not unusual, but what the text said was definitely not like my wife. "Hey babe, I had an idea for something new we could try when you get home." Now don't get me wrong, I was thrilled to get this text in the middle of my workday. I think any man would be ecstatic at a text like that. But I was having a hard time getting too excited because something about it felt so off. My wife has never been the kind of woman to send a message like this, let alone want to try something new. She is a very shy and to herself woman. The day moved at a snail's pace as I anticipated what my wife had in store for me. I tried not to overhype it in my head. I prepared myself to find a baked good or something when I walked into the house. I fully believed she didn't mean to send a winky face. Not to say I would have been disappointed with whatever she had in store. I'm not much of a wild guy myself. But a little spice never hurt anyone, right? When I pulled into the driveway, I was surprised to see most of the house lights were off. I suspiciously unlocked the front door to see my beautiful wife standing facing away from me in the doorway to the bedroom. My happiness from seeing her quickly grew into confusion when she didn't turn around to look at me when I walked in and said her name. She would normally run up to me and give me a big hug. In the past, my wife has always been the sweetest person I've ever known. For her to not run up and give me a hug and a kiss was strange. I made my way inside after waiting a second, trying to be as loud as possible, in the hopes she would suddenly notice I was home and look at me. I got closer and noticed she wasn't moving other than her soft breaths. I was standing right behind her and tapped her on the shoulder. "Hey, sweetheart, are you okay?" Right as I got out my words, she jumped around to face me with a giggle and smile. "Ha, that was so funny. Did I scare you?" she said while covering her mouth in an attempt to hide her toothy laugh. "Yeah, I guess you really did scare me," I replied with a nervous chuckle. "So was that your special surprise you talked about?" "Of course not, silly. That was just the beginning of the fun," she remarked with a smirk and a wink. She grabbed my hand and led me into our bedroom. Under normal circumstances, I would have been over the moon about it, but her scaring me just before leading me into the bedroom felt so off-putting. Did she think this would turn me on somehow? Did one of my buddies reach out to her and tell her to do this? All I knew was that I was not interested in whatever romantic endeavors my wife had planned. I never thought I would say that. As we got to the bed, she pulled back all the covers and told me to lie down. I honestly felt like telling her I had a headache or something, but it was clear she had been thinking about this all day, and I really didn't want to discourage my wife from initiating things in the future. My mind was spinning with thoughts of what she might do next, but she did something I didn't expect. She put the covers back over me and tucked me in. I was both relieved and more confused than ever. She gave me a soft smile, then in one fast motion, fell to the ground like a sack of wet hammers. I intuitively sat up and leaned over the side of the bed to make sure she was okay, and was only met with the ends of her long brown hair peeking out from the bottom of the bed. "Hey, Catelyn, why are you hiding? Can you please come out? I'm not a fan of this game you are playing," I murmured in a tone, trying to not sound freaked out. I was only met with the sound of a muffled giggle. I sat in bed for the next 10 minutes, trying to tell her to stop. It went from polite asking to begging, but the laughter didn't stop. After my begging didn't seem to work, I got the courage to get out of bed and look beneath me. As soon as I put my foot down, she grabbed my ankle. "What the hell, Catelyn? This isn't funny. You have fun here. I'm sleeping on the couch." I slammed the bedroom door behind me and curled up on the living room couch. I could still hear her laughing from the joke I seemed to miss. It was so hard to sleep that night. The image of her hair barely peeking out from under the mattress really stuck in my head for some reason. It took a while, but I finally fell asleep. The next morning I was up for work a couple hours before her, so we didn't get the chance to talk. I had to go into the bedroom to get my clothes for work, so I peeked under the bed to check on her. She was sleeping peacefully on her stomach, and I tried not to wake her. It was a long, hard day at work. I wasn't really feeling all that scared anymore, more so worried for my wife. I wasn't sure how I could help. Around 10 a.m., I got a text from her. "Hey, Emmett. I'm really sorry about last night. I have a lot of explaining to do once we both get home. Can we talk over some pizza?" I felt so much better after reading those words. It might seem insignificant, but my wife hates pizza. So whenever she is willing to eat it with me, I know she is putting in the effort. It was the end of the day, and I headed home looking forward to some pizza and some time with my hopefully back to normal wife. I walked through the door and was relieved to see my wife setting the table and putting down a pizza box. She heard the door shut and ran to give me a hug and a kiss. I really felt like I had my wife back. "I'm so glad you're home. Sit down, sit down. I got pizza from your favorite place down the road," she said as she pulled a chair out for me to sit down. We were both quiet for a minute or two after we both sat down. I don't think either one of us knew how to start the conversation. Just as I was about to speak up, she started to talk. "So I know last night was weird. I just got really insecure after hearing a few of my coworkers talk about the things they do with their partners, and I was worried you thought I was too boring. I know I can be shy and don't like to do anything crazy, and started to feel guilty for not doing more with you. I wasn't entirely sure how to even go about it or what you would like, so I just went for it. I understand now how I went wrong. I'm sorry, I just don't know how to do this kind of thing," she said as if she had rehearsed it many times in her head. "Why would you ever think I was bored of you? I don't need any of that wild stuff. I married you for a reason. You don't need to try to be something you're not. I love you for who you are," I said as I grabbed her hand. She took a deep breath and looked at me with watery eyes. "I love you too. Thank you for being so understanding. I really want to make it up to you." "That's very kind, but the pizza is enough for me." "No, I'm really serious. I did some more research and found a few good ideas," she said as she put her hand on my thigh. I was so torn at that moment. I was terrified from the night before, but it seemed like she learned from her mistakes. Sure, it was an incredibly strange mistake to think scaring me would get me in the mood, but she is extremely sheltered. That's what I was trying to tell myself. I knew deep down something was still wrong, and I should just say no, but I think many people can understand how your body can go on autopilot in moments like this. At this point, nothing was going to stop me, and I'd give every excuse in the book as to why it was okay to let her do her thing, just like last time I was led to our bed. She made me lay down and immediately put my hands over my head into handcuffs and put a blindfold on me. My heart was racing at this point. I was terrified, but human nature was taking over and it could not be overridden. Right as she put the blindfold on me, she stepped back and I didn't hear her move. I was expecting her to do something to me, but nothing. I laid on the bed feeling more exposed than I ever felt possible. After a couple minutes, I heard the floor squeak, and it confirmed that she had been standing right by the bed the whole time. I felt like I could feel her eyes staring at me. It was practically burning a hole in my skin. I heard the light switch flick off. Now I really couldn't see anything. After a few moments of anticipation, I felt her fingertips graze the sheets near my sides. Then by my feet, just barely missing any part of my body. I started to maybe get hope again that I shouldn't be scared. Sure, this wasn't what I had in mind, but she was new to this. I was very wrong. That was the last moment I had hope for my wife. This was teasing. This was torture. I was soon met with the sound of her scraping her fingernails against the walls like a wild animal. She moved around the room, scratching anything she could find, along with a brief giggle here and there. It was like she was silently moving from corner to corner. I would hear her make the awful scraping. Then it would stop for a second. Then I would be jump scared by her doing the same thing in a different spot. It made my skin crawl like I had a million little bugs crawling on the inside of my skin. I wiggled violently, trying to get out of the restraints or to get the blindfold off, but I was trapped. It kept getting worse as the night went on. She kept getting right by my ear. Sometimes she would just breathe, and other times she would let out a giggle. She would run her hands closer and closer to my body, sending me into a cold sweat. I, of course, didn't have a way of telling the time, but I would guess it was about an hour in when I stopped begging her to let me go and I just started yelling for help. I guess she didn't like that because she put duct tape over my mouth. Shortly after that, I started to hear the scraping sound on the ceiling. Our bedroom has an extremely high ceiling, so I had a hard time imagining how she was doing it. I couldn't believe the situation I was in. It felt like a terrible nightmare. I kept thinking any minute I would wake up next to my gorgeous wife, sleeping soundly beside me. But the nightmare lived on. My wrists felt raw and bloodied. My neck was sore from moving it back and forth trying to get the blindfold off. My whole body ached from trying to free myself. But all that paled in comparison to the psychological torture my wife was putting me through. Not being able to see her next move and not knowing how far she was going to go killed me inside. Before I knew it, I was waking up the next day, still tied up and blindfolded like the night before. But I didn't hear my wife around. I didn't let my guard down, however. I knew she could just be waiting for me to relax, then jump out and scare me again. After wiggling my head around for a bit, I finally got the blindfold off. I was honestly scared to open my eyes. I was terrified that my wife would be standing in the corner, waiting for me to look at her. Luckily, when I opened my eyes, she was nowhere to be found. But the relief was brief after seeing the aftermath of my bedroom. Nearly every square inch was scratched. Even on the 20-foot ceiling above my head, some of the scratches even had blood in them. As I looked around at my ruined room, I heard my phone buzzing on the bedside table. Either I put it there before getting into bed or my wife put it there. At this point, it didn't matter, but having my phone near me could be a saving grace. I figured it was my boss calling me since it was 10 a.m. and I wasn't at work. I wasn't sure if my wife had any plans of coming back to get me, but maybe if I didn't show up to work, my boss would get worried about me and come looking for me. I soon had the realization that if they called my emergency contact, it would just be my wife, and I wasn't sure how helpful she'd be at this point. I laid down in my bed the rest of the day, miserable as I watched the hours go by, my stomach growling and my arms were sore from them being above my head for the last 24 hours. It was around 9 p.m. when my phone started getting calls like crazy. I remembered I had plans to get dinner with my brother and he was probably worried about me. I am not the kind of person to just bail. After a couple of hours of calling, I heard a few knocks at the door, followed by my brother's voice. It was muffled, but I could tell he was worried. I heard keys start to wiggly in the doorway. He had a set of keys in case I lost my pair and needed to get in the house. He opened the door and yelled out my name as I tried to be as loud as possible, thrashing my body around as I tried to scream out the duct tape that was nearly off my face. "Emmett, what the hell, dude?" My brother yelled and he ran to my aid. He immediately ripped the duct tape off my face. "Oh my gosh, thank goodness you're here. Get me out now." "Damn, dude, I didn't think you and Catelyn were down bad like that." "Nice," my brother said with a smirk. "Daniel, this is not the time. Get me out," I said with more aggression. Okay, hang on," he murmured as he tried to get the cuffs off. After trying for a while, we found it impossible to get them off without a key. He ended up just getting my bolt cutters and cut them off. It was nearly midnight when I was finally out. My arms were so sore it took me forever just to get them back down at my sides. "So, do you want me to pretend I didn't see any of this or something?" Daniel said in a casual tone. What? No, it's not what it looks like. Trust me, I wish it was what it looks like. Catelyn is sick or something. She trapped me here all night and practically tortured me. Look, I know we are close and all, but I don't think I need those kinds of details from my own brother, he remarked with a chuckle. You aren't listening to me. Look at the walls and the ceiling. She did this. She is scaring me. I don't know what to do. He looked around the room and then at the ripped apart ceiling, not fully grasping the situation but clearly concerned. Okay, come stay with me tonight if you are freaked out, he said, half annoyed and half worried. I grabbed a few pairs of clothes out of the closet and shoved them in a bag. I wasn't sure how long I was going to be gone, but I wanted to be prepared. My brother only lives a few minutes down the road, so it was an easy drive. The whole time I was worried my wife was going to appear and scare me. We made it inside my brother's house, and he apologized for not having a guest bed. He's in his early 20s and lives alone, so he doesn't have much space, but honestly, I didn't want to be far away from him. I didn't dare to tell my little brother I needed him, and I was scared. But I think he could tell I wasn't okay. Listen, I don't really get what is going on, but it's getting really late and we both should sleep. Let me know if you need anything, he said as he awkwardly walked into his room, 10 feet away from the couch I was lying on. I had a terrible time falling asleep that night. Whenever I closed my eyes, I just heard the sounds of her nails scraping the walls in my head. I kept thinking, and I felt her warm breath against my ear. I'd open up my eyes to find the room empty. It was starting to feel like this anticipation of her was becoming just as bad as her actually torturing me. I woke up the next morning exhausted. My whole body felt like I was just in a car accident from being so tense for so long, and I only got 3 hours of sleep. I realized that if life was still normal, my wife would make me hot tea and a warm bath with all her fancy essential oils that probably do nothing. But she always put so much love into it. I started to feel myself slip. I felt sadness creeping in, but none of that mattered. I had to go to work. I couldn't have a no-call, no-show, and then call out of work the next day. I would feel terrible about it. Plus, I wanted to apologize to my boss in person. The workday started out strange when I tried to ask forgiveness from my boss, but he acted strange at my apology. He explained that my wife gave him a call and said I wasn't feeling well and I would be absent from work that day. I guess despite everything, my wife still didn't want me to get a slap on the wrist at work. That was only the beginning of the strange day. I found a dead rat in my desk drawer, spiders in my locker, and a huge clump of hair in my lunch. It seemed like I was the only employee being harassed. But they ended up closing and sending everyone home at around 3 p.m. because a few higher-ups got nervous and thought they needed to look into it. Banks tend to take stuff like this seriously. I went out to my car to leave for the day and was in shock to find a note on my car. Did that do it for you? Catelyn. I knew it was her. I just didn't want to believe it. The last thing in the world I wanted to do was talk to the woman. I was terrified at this point, but I had to beg her to stop. For some reason, she thought I had some weird kink for being scared. Or maybe she developed one. Regardless, I had to tell her if it didn't stop, I was going to leave her or even get a restraining order. I didn't want to meet her in person by myself. I didn't know what stunt she would try and pull to convince me to give her one more chance. Since my brother was already partly up to date on the situation, I asked him if he would be there for our meeting. It might be awkward, but I needed him. I didn't want to involve more people than necessary. I texted them both individually and told them to meet me at a coffee shop that night. It was 7 p.m., and my brother was already sitting next to me waiting for my wife to walk in. As she walked in, it was clear she was putting on an act. She looked overly sad and was dressed in bright clothes that she'd never worn in the past. Trying to make herself look innocent, she pulled out a chair and sat down at our table. The air was thick and awkward. Catelyn, I wanted to meet in person and have Daniel here because I need you to know whatever you are pulling here isn't what I want. I'm not enjoying whatever act you are putting on. I'm not turned on. I don't find it sexy, whatever you want to call it. Please stop. If this is something you are into, I think we need to talk to a professional because it's scaring me, I said earnestly, as her eyes got watery, and Daniel slouched in his chair uncomfortably. I don't know what to say, babe. I have to say I'm confused. I know I'm new to this experimenting thing, but I'm doing my best. This is what you asked of me. I'm just trying to be a good wife. You know me. I'm as vanilla as they come. You are the one who asked me about these acts. I'm just doing my best. She stressed as she fought back tears. Daniel looked at me with confused eyes. Wait, hang on. What's going on? I didn't think you asked for any of this, Emmett. Daniel said, I didn't. I swear. I have no idea what she is talking about. I would never ask anything like that from her. I pleaded to my brother. You are sick, you know that. Why are you doing this to me? She uttered as she pulled out an envelope and tossed it on the table. Daniel and I looked at each other before he reached for it and opened it up. Inside was a letter that Daniel read out loud. Dear Catelyn, I love you with all my heart, but I'm afraid I'm getting bored of the same old. I want something more. I am writing this out as I might feel weird saying it face to face, but I've been thinking about it, and well, nothing gives me a high quite like when I am scared, and I mean truly terrified. The adrenaline rush is like nothing else. I think if we employ this into our lives, it would really spice things up. In the everyday and in the bedroom. I hope you understand and don't get put off by this, but I really want it. Under no circumstance, if I say stop, should you stop. If I tell you I'm too scared, you know you are doing something right. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Emmett. He lowered the note to look at me, only finding shock on my face. What the hell, dude? Why would you do this to your wife and get me involved? This is so messed up and gross. Don't get me involved in your sick kinks ever again, he said as he threw the note at me and stormed out of the coffee shop. I begged him not to leave, but he didn't even turn around. I sat and stared at my wife, terrified. What on earth is going on here? You and I both know I didn't write that garbage, I angrily whispered to her. Her face slowly morphed from sad to a satisfied grin. Stop it, I don't like this. Why don't you realize I hate what you are doing? I cried. When will you realize everything isn't always about you? Maybe I'm the one who likes it, she said as she lifted her eyebrows. Stop, you are scaring me, I begged. Good, then it's working, she said as she pushed her chair back and stood up. She turned around and looked like she was going to leave. Just as she was about to open the door, she stopped. She turned back around and looked at me. She slowly walked back toward me and picked up the note my brother threw. She grinned at me smugly as I trembled in fear. She leaned down to my ear and whispered, I guess I did a good job imitating your handwriting, huh? She said as I remained frozen in my seat. I watched as she walked out, got in her car, and left. not knowing what to do next. She turned my own brother against me. This wasn't a miscommunication or something. She was doing this on purpose. She was torturing me. But why? It couldn't be just because she was bored of everyday life. Something was wrong. I knew my brother wouldn't want me back at his place. He saw what looked to be proof of me being a nasty scumbag. I wouldn't be able to convince him otherwise. I went to a hotel for the night. I didn't have other options. I didn't want to burden anyone else with this. Plus, I figured she'd just turn them against me too, after what felt like the longest day of my life. I was in my hotel bed trying to relax. I got a text from my boss letting me know they had to close the bank for the next couple of days because they were doing an investigation. I felt some relief from this. At least I didn't have to worry about work for a day or two. I don't remember much of that night, but I do remember the outcome of the early morning. I remember feeling cold and wet. I opened my eyes to see I was in the woods and lying in a very shallow grave. Most of my body was above ground with a small pile of dirt on top of me. I was frozen in fear. The fear of my wife lurking around somewhere. It seemed like she tried to bury me alive, but did a half-assed job. I tried looking around at the dark forest to try and get my bearings, but only found more confusion and dread. The cold morning wind whistling around me added to my looming fear, as if it was taunting me, but it didn't scare me nearly as badly as my wife. I looked around for her to try and find her, but only got more and more worried when I didn't see her. I heard the sound of twigs snapping from every side. Eventually, I heard a grinding, clicking sound. It sounded robotic, but also human. Then it turned into a giggle. I never thought the sound of my wife's giggle would haunt me so feverishly. The sound would come from far to the right, then switch to my left. Faster than she would have been able to get that far. Much like she did in our bedroom a couple nights back, I started to hear footsteps along with the twigs breaking. I swore it didn't sound like she was walking on 2 feet, but on all 4s. I tried not to think about it. I told myself my mind was playing tricks on me. I shook my head back and forth in an attempt to shake the visions out of my head. I found the strength in me to get to my feet and to run. I noticed what looked like the right direction to move in, based on the ground being disturbed. Like she dragged me through the dirt to the spot I woke up in. After running for a few minutes, the trail looked familiar. I knew I was close to home. When I would hear the footsteps, I would turn my head to look, only to barely miss her. After what felt like forever, I saw her. She was on all 4s, circling me, running like a wild animal, her tongue sticking out of her mouth like a dog. I hardly recognized her. Her circles around me got tighter and tighter. As she got closer to me, she slowed down. Eventually, she got right in front of me and stood up on her 2 legs. I tried to run around her, but before I knew it, she pinned me down. I could barely recognize her up until this point, but something clicked when she got close to me. I looked into her eyes, but I didn't see my wife. I saw something else. I guess I should have guessed sooner. But something was wrong with my wife, because this thing wasn't my wife. "What did you do with her?" I yelled in her face. "You will never find her," she whispered with a hoarse voice. As drool started to come out of her mouth, she abruptly jumped off of me and scurried back into the woods. The last words she said echoed in my head. "You will never find her." The relief I felt knowing my wife might still be out there. But how was I supposed to find her? I couldn't keep up the running my whole way home, but managed to sprint. I kept thinking she was gone, then I would hear her nearby, taunting me. I got back to our house. I hadn't been there since this all started happening a couple days ago, so I was scared to see what the inside looked like. I knew I couldn't stay for long. I saw her car still in the driveway, so I planned to take it. My car was still at my hotel, but I needed to make it hard for her to get around. I thought I would also look for clues for my real wife while I was there. After I entered the house, I was shocked to see the state it was in. My wife would rather die than see her home look like this. Glass broken on the ground from wine glasses, dirt, and trash in random piles. A foul stench filling my nose. I couldn't believe what that thing did to our once beautiful home. The horrible smell distracted me, but I remembered my goal once I saw some blood. I followed it to the basement staircase. I grabbed the fire poker by our fireplace and walked to the door leading to the basement. I felt guilty for taking so long and not just heroically running down the steps to hopefully see my wife, but my whole being was so full of dread, I couldn't help but feel fear. I knew I had to fight, but every part of my body wanted to flee. The door creaked as I pushed it open. It was hard to tell if it was louder than normal or if the moment made it feel excruciating. I peered through the door to see more blood on the stairs. A lot of blood. I ran down as fast as I could without slipping, noticing blood on the guardrails as I tried to grab them. As I made it to the bottom of the steps, I was in shock. I saw my wife. She laid on the cold, unfinished basement floor. Her breath was visible but faint, covered head to toe in cuts and scrapes. I ran to her and collapsed beside her, weeping like a baby. "Catelyn, Catelyn, please get up. Come on, we need to get you out of here. You need help, and I don't want her to find us," I said, with a panicked breath. "Well, what's going on? Was I sleeping down here?" "Wow, my head hurts," she whispered in a groggy voice. "No time for that now. I'm getting you some help," I proclaimed as I lifted her up in my arms with a sudden burst of adrenaline. It was clear from her injuries she needed medical attention, but I wasn't worried for her life. There is no way the amount of blood I saw in the house was all from her. If it was all hers, she'd be on the verge of death. That awful creature must have gotten some blood somewhere else to scare me more. As if the sight of my wife on the floor was grisly enough. We rushed to the hospital in what felt like record time. As I carried her in, the hospital staff approached us asking all kinds of questions. I tried my best to explain, but it didn't sound right coming out of my mouth. I couldn't explain any of it because I was still trying to understand it myself. The staff got my wife set up in a hospital bed. She had an IV for some fluids and some stitches here and there. After a couple hours, she seemed to perk up, but she could tell I wasn't being myself just yet. "Babe, I know you're freaked out, but don't be so cold to me. I just went through something awful. Please, I need you now more than ever," my wife said from her bed across the dimly lit room. I was trying to be as loving as possible, but I just couldn't get some images out of my head. I was desperately trying to remember my wife before that monster came into the picture, but it was so hard. Her face went from sad to an over-exaggerated pout. In an attempt to make a sad puppy dog face, she tried to make the cutest faces she could. I got closer and closer to her, and her happiness grew. I ended up sitting on her bed with her. She leaned close to me and puckered her lips. I gave in and had a blissful kiss with my wife until she bit down. I tried to pull away, but she had such a grip. I could tell I'd badly hurt my lip if I resisted. Instead, we both sat in silence. Her breathing got slow and deep as my heart rate increased. She slowly loosened her bite but stayed uncomfortably close to my face. "Say a word and I will scream," she whispered. Before I could process what was happening, she reached for my hand and grabbed my pinky. Then she violently forced it the wrong way. I screamed in pain as I heard the snap of my finger breaking. My ears were ringing in shock. As I reacted, my wife did as well. "Get away from me, you horrible monster. Get off of me. Don't you dare touch me," she yelled at the top of her lungs. I backed away from her. Confused and shocked, medical staff ran into our room. "What the hell is happening here?" a tall man said. "Sir, thank goodness you're here. My husband is trying to hurt me. He is the one who gave me these injuries. I didn't want to tell anyone because I was too scared he would hurt me even more. Please help me. Now he is trying to hurt me again," she desperately cried. No, do not believe her. Look at what she did to my lip and my finger. I'm the one who needs help. This woman is torturing me," I said, pleading to the staff as a nurse chimed in. "Those look like wounds of a woman defending herself, buddy. Don't play the victim." "No, please. Someone has to help me. This isn't my wife. This is a monster. She is manipulating you all." I finished my sentence as 2 large security guards came to take me out. As I left the room, I turned back to look at that thing sitting in the hospital bed. It grinded at me. It was still playing a game, still scaring me to my very core. I made it outside with the 2 security guards, and they helped me into a cop car. As we drove, I saw my whole life falling apart before my eyes. I realized I was probably going to jail. She would find her way to make me seem guilty of abuse, and who knows what else. She would bend the truth. She even had my own brother on her side. Not only did I come to terms with going to jail, but with the fact that my wife was gone. Even if my real wife was still alive, I've been through so much trauma with that monster that I can never see her the same again. At that moment, my whole world was shattered. I felt emotions inside me bubbling up. I felt sadness, pain, anger, all so strong I didn't know what to do. Just as I fought off my tears, I was jolted out of my depression with the cop car swerving off the road suddenly. Every part of my body tensed up as the car flipped and went into a ditch. I was dizzy, but somehow still lucid. I managed to get my seatbelt unbuckled, but soon found myself in an awkward position, just lying in the flipped car waiting for help. The 2 officers in the front seat were passed out. I was pretty sure one of them was dead by looking at him. After lying in the flipped car weighing my options, I saw someone walking around the car. I yelled for help, but my heart sank when I realized it was her. Suddenly, the car that just moments ago made me feel trapped now felt like my saving grace. The only thing separating me and that monster. I did my best to keep my eye on where she was, but she managed to get around too fast. Before I knew it, she reached through the broken window, grabbed my ankles, and ripped me out of the car. I could feel the glass shards ripping at my skin as she forced me out. She got me out and dragged me a couple feet away from the car. She stood above me, straddling me. Her arms were blooded from pulling me out of the car. She got closer to me slowly, eventually sitting on my chest. As she got close, I could see how bad she looked. Her hair was knotted and ratty. Her skin looked dry and weathered. My whole body ached at the sight of her. If this was my wife, something was really wrong. Wasn't that thrilling? She remakes with a crazed look in her eye. "Stop it, just stop it. I will leave you and get a restraining order against you. I will do anything in my power to get away from you." I pleaded with her weight on my chest. "Huh, how do you think you'll get away with that? I have everyone on my side. I have written evidence that makes me seem innocent. No one will ever believe you. You are putty in my hands. Is this what you want? For me to go to jail? To make me look like an abusive, sexually corrupt man? Why are you doing this? I said with desperation. Go to jail? Who said I wanted you to go to jail? Who do you think stopped the cop car, the tooth fairy? She said with a chuckle and twisted smile. Then why did you tell all those lies about me? Why are you trying to make me look guilty and then the next minute save me? If you go to jail, the chase is over. You will be protected by the jail walls and steel bars that keep us separated. I won't be able to keep scaring you. Jail would be freedom for you. Freedom from me. What if I would rather go to jail than have you constantly lurking around every corner? I said with squinted eyes. She met my gaze and got even closer. She whispered something that sent a chill down my spine. Go to jail and give up finding your beautiful bride? You sick bastard, I said as I tried to sit up to grab her, but she pinned my arms down. You thought because of the little stunt I pulled I was making up a lie about your wife still being out there. Don't be silly, you know your wife. She would never act like this. How do I know you aren't bluffing? I said as my eyes filled with hate. Think of it this way. Would you rather keep looking for her your whole life than on your deathbed realize it was all a lie? Or go to jail and realize on your deathbed that your real wife was alive the whole time, trapped away somewhere, desperately waiting for her knight in shining armor to come to save her, but he never came. What a shame that would be, huh? She uttered with a soft, maniacal tone. Who are you? Why are you doing this? I said as she let go of my wrists and sat up, and began to speak in a normal, cheering tone. What do you mean, goofball? I'm your wife. I'm doing it because I love you. I felt even more scared to see her attitude shift so suddenly. I could see what she was trying to do, showing me how she could manipulate me and others. She got off of me and walked a few feet away. More cops will be here soon. I will keep them off your trail so you have time to get away. But don't get too comfy. Wherever you go, I will find you. Once I find you, keep running. I want you to keep having a sense of getting away from me. I want you to feel safe so I can take that feeling away from you again. I rose to my feet, looking at her in awe. I knew I couldn't be completely confident in my real wife still being alive, but the thought of her in a cold room, waiting for me, echoed through my head. I had to keep running. I had to keep looking. Even if that was exactly what she wanted from me, I started to run. I ran with no clue where I was going. I thought that I didn't have a home to go to. I did not know where was safe. I was hopeless. I spent the next several months running away. I hitchhiked and found odd jobs. I even found a super sketchy doctor's office that took some cash I had in my wallet. I had to get some help with the injuries I sustained. A few separate times I thought I was safe. I thought I had outrun the police, and more importantly, my wife. The first time I realized she found me, I opened the door to find bloody teeth all over my doorstep. I was in the next place for about 6 weeks, but kept getting ding-dong ditchers. I thought it was just kids, but no kid would be doing it on the hour, every hour for days straight. That brings us to the current day. I won't give details on my location in case she is reading this. However, I'm not completely sure if she has found me or not. Sometimes I hear scraping on the outside of the house, or what sounds like something inside my walls. I tell myself it's just animals because it makes me feel better. She might be trying to be less obvious, so I stop running. I was relieved at first that she wasn't doing anything too terrifying. But then I realized it's worse to not know if it's her or not. I've been spending most of my time hoping and praying that my real wife is still out there. I can't help look for her as well as I'd like, given I'm very far from home. I worry that if I just sit around and wait, they will never find her. Not as long as that thing pretends to be my wife. My biggest fear of all is that she is my real wife. Is she giving me false hope so I have a reason to stay out of jail and a reason to live? No, I can't believe that. I will never give up hope. I love you, Catelyn, and I will keep looking for you. Story 3. My boyfriend has a weird obsession. I think I might have to get a second job to support my boyfriend's addiction. We've been going out for 6 months, and for the most part, things have been going well until recently. He's been sneaking around, hiding receipts, and not telling me what he's been buying. I know what you're thinking. He's cheating. Trust me, I suspected that too. But it's not that. I know because yesterday I stumbled onto what he's been up to. Jake has a candle addiction. I know it's weird, but there you have it. He's been buying 2 to 3 large jar candles a week every time he gets paid. Maybe it's none of my business, but considering we just moved in together, well, hey, a girl's got a right to know. Don't judge. Anyway, this has been going on for weeks. And the weird thing is, he's not buying all the same scent. His choices are random, the weirdest thing. I could understand buying all the same scent, but he brings home citrus, vanilla, sea breeze, and stuff like oatmeal cookie scented candles all in one purchase. I just don't understand it. I also don't understand the sudden candle obsession. Why the need to buy so many? The apartment smells great, but the haze of scented burning wax in strange combinations of smells can get a little overwhelming. And he's been increasing the number he buys per week since last week. Every room has lit candles now. I'm a hopeless romantic at heart, but this is a little ridiculous. Setting a mood is one thing. Making the house look like you're calling up the dead? Sheesh. I knew it was time for an intervention. I walked into our spare bedroom. Jake has more candles in there than anywhere, all different scents. And they weren't working well together at all. The combination of the 50 of them together gave off a pungent odor that caused bile to rise in my throat. I could hardly choke it back to ask Jake what was going on. He polished a couple of hunting knives he had purchased last month, his old obsession before he had started collecting candles. Then he walked over and locked the door. "What in the world are you doing?" He smiled and walked to the closet door. "I have a surprise for you." "Oh." He opened the door and tears pricked my eyes as I choked and gagged, now fully aware where the smell was coming from. It wasn't the candles. It was worse. So much worse. "I dug up my old girlfriend a few weeks ago," Jake said as he wheeled out a wheelchair containing a corpse. He opened a large black book he had also been keeping in the closet and then grabbed me by the wrist. "I can't live without her, nor can I live without you. I figured out a way I can have you both." Story 4. My husband's obsession with serial killers is ruining my life. My husband thinks he's a fucking reincarnated Sherlock Holmes. I can't even have a normal conversation with him. Everything has to be whodunits and murder mysteries. He sits there with a notepad and goes through every single documentary he can find and maps out every lick of evidence, every motive, and his personal suspects. Recently, he'd become distant. He still watches them, but never with me. Always with the doors closed. He told me he had a headache, I tell Jazz, who sits on the countertop, legs swinging playfully. I chop onions for his dinner, unable to keep the venom bleeding into my tone. Like I know he's not telling me something. Last night he abandoned sex because he had a light bulb moment about some cold case he won't shut up about. I slice the onion into halves, peeling and dicing, but he insists on lying. I hiss, grabbing a towel and swiping at my eyes when they start to sting. Bro, I told you. Jazz sighs, leaning back, arms folded. Stop slicing onions without your glasses. He gestures to them sitting on the table, and I grab and slide them on. Anyway, your husband is a psychopath, very clearly. Jazz shrugs, leaning forward, chin on fist. He's wearing a different shirt today, a plain white short-sleeved tee. I don't acknowledge it. Usually when he visits, it's his usual sweater and jeans. There were 0 signs, he mocks with a smirk. Also, your beau is literally binge-watching my husband as a chainsaw-wielding psychopath who chopped me into a million pieces. I jerk my head up, catching his smirk. I slice another onion with emphasis, cutting straight down the middle. You're not funny, I mutter, but my stomach twists, catapulting into my throat. I hate that suspicion even exists inside me. A slow-building dread I can't swallow. Every time I try, I find myself kneeling in front of the toilet, my head resting against cool porcelain. The stench of raw onion is too much, filling my mouth and nose. I gag, resting against the countertop, the knife slipping from my fingers. I haven't told him yet, I don't want to. I lunge toward the sink, choking up undigested lunch, my throat burning. You're pregnant. Jazz hums. Damn. I ignore him, downing a glass of water, bile clinging to my tongue. I found out yesterday. Huh. Jazz kicks his legs, tipping his head back. Okay, so just tell me if I'm overstepping. You're overstepping. I hiss back, swiping my mouth. I can't stop overthinking every coincidence I never thought more of. His weird obsession with Target, specifically the stationery section. Our neighbors mentioned him taking the car out late at night. I just awkwardly laughed and said, well, that's weird. You don't want to bring a child up in a murder house. Jazz teases in a sing-song. I glare at Jazz. You're the worst roommate ever. I rethink my insult, observing him sitting on my marble countertop. Kitchen goblin. Jazz feigns horror. I pay rent. We both know you don't. He winks and then repositions himself. Ditto. Anyway, so if I'm getting this right, you want to be a mom, but you don't want your kid to have a murderer for a parent. Madeline? Kayan's voice rattles me. I'm home. Oh shit, Jazz smirks. Murder Husbando is back for round 2. Hi, honey, I greet Kayan, ignoring Jazz dramatically grabbing his throat, pretending to choke. Babe. Kayan wraps his arms around me, startling me into immediate submission. The knife slides from my clammy fingers. I've been thinking about you all day. He hums against my neck, pressing kisses against my throat. He makes me hot, flustered. Pregnancy hormones must be kicking my ass because I let him slam me against the countertop, riding his hips, kissing him so I don't think about how fucking suspicious he is. Right in front of my salad, Jazz deadpans. I can sense him glaring into the back of my skull. Please get a room before I shoot myself. Kayan takes my hand and drags me upstairs. We have sex, but it's emotionless. He's thinking about something. He won't even look at me. I know what he's going to say as soon as he says it. That's it. He hisses in my ear halfway through a climax. I've solved it. He jumps off the bed, wide-eyed, grinning maniacally. Do you remember that cold case I was talking about? He pulls me down to the garage, and something unravels inside me. The shutters roll up, and a murder board is nailed against the wall, filled with newspaper clippings. 10 years ago, 3 15-year-olds were murdered. There were 0 suspects, not even a lick of evidence. Cayenne stabs at the board, exhilarated. Rihanna Odessa. Cayenne prods the victims' names and photos. Ryan Baxter. Another stab. And Jazz Carter. My husband doesn't speak until he's nose to nose with me. The sheriff's daughter, he says softly. Madeline Forrest, who murdered her friends for discovering her father's corruption. The sheriff dumped the evidence and faked your alibi. I try to keep my composure, but I can't. Hysterical giggles erupt from my mouth. Corruption? I splutter. Baby, I didn't kill them to shut them up. I killed them because I was bored. I grab him gently and kiss him gently. To my surprise, he kisses back, eyes wide, frenzied. Now, I smile, sliding my knife out of my jeans and sticking it under his chin, taking his hand and placing it firming on my belly. Do you want to end up in a fucking murder documentary or have a baby with me? I pull him close, reveling in his shuddery, panicked breaths against my lips. Well? Jazz sits on an old washing machine behind us, the only one who refused to leave me the fuck alone. He rolls his eyes when my husband drops to his knees and begs for his life. Crazy bitch. Story 5. My boyfriend's Halloween obsession. Me and my boyfriend loved Halloween so much, and this year, it was going to be extra special. Our first Halloween together after 7 months of being in a relationship. We were both excited. As I was brainstorming what decorations we should add to our house to make it stand out, he casually told me not to worry about it. He had a cool idea, he said, and I trusted him. I was thrilled. From what I'd seen in his pictures, his house had looked incredible last Halloween, and I was eager to see what he'd come up with this time. So I decided to let him take the reins on the decorating. As Halloween approached, he went all out. He started bringing home all sorts of creepy things. Fake pumpkins, spider webs, eerie lights. He set it all up while I was at work, and when I came home, the place was transformed. But there was something off about it. It felt too much, like something wasn't quite right. The night before Halloween, we were sitting on the couch chatting when one of the skeletons on the shelf suddenly fell to the floor with a loud thud. I rushed to pick it up, but he stopped me. "Don't," he said, his voice colder than usual. I froze, a chill creeping up my spine. I hadn't thought much about it at first, but now I was starting to feel uneasy. Why was he acting so strange? Why wouldn't he let me touch anything? He picked the skeleton up and set it back on the shelf, but something felt wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that the skeleton was far too lifelike. My curiosity got the better of me. I had to know. "Is this real?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He met my eyes, his expression unreadable. "Babe," he started slowly. "I've always had an obsession with Halloween. As I got older, it went too far. I wanted real things in my house for Halloween. Real skeletons, real coffins." My stomach dropped. "Whose body is this?" I asked, my heart racing. He didn't blink. His eyes were cold and steady as he stared at me. "This?" he said, holding the skeleton gently. "Oh, don't worry, this one's fake, but I know where to get a real one." I knew what was going to happen to me next. If you're still here, you just made it through one of the scariest stories you will ever hear in the internet. Most people clicked away. You didn't. That means something. I want to know, and do you think this actually happened? Or is it just a story? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video gave you chills or kept you up at night, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it tells me you want more stories like this. Subscribe to Mikey Blocks and turn on the bell, because the next story I found is even darker than this one. You don't want to miss it. Until next time, stay safe out there.